Hello. I was tagged in a thing. Can you believe it? I can't. But yeah, I was. Mair of Lady Mair Reads recently put out a video where she talks about her most beautiful books in her collection. And she did that as a result of being tagged by Hardy's Books, who did the same. They were tagged by a Mild Rumpus, who did it before them. Basically, the point of the tag is to just take some beautiful books and show them off. When I was tagged, I immediately thought to myself that I'm not going to do that because I don't have like limited edition or special editions, or I have a couple, but I'm not necessarily a connoisseur of fine books. But then I looked around the library and I looked at the books and I started to realize that the beautiful books aren't necessarily these limited editions, and you don't have to spend hundreds of dollars on a book to get a gorgeous copy of it. Books are designed to look good, right? That's the whole reason somebody would design a cover for a book, is so that it looks good, it draws the eye, and it makes somebody buy it. So anyway, I'm going to go through the list of prompts and show off some books. I will start off at the beginning. The first prompt is a book you bought primarily or completely because of the cover. That's starter villain, obviously. Look at this. Look at this gentleman. That's insane. You kidding? I don't know one thing about this book. Not a single thing. I know it's by John Scalzi. I've read one John Scalzi book, the Kaiju Preservation Society, and I liked it a lot. And then I think I got some notification from, I don't know, Goodreads or Amazon saying that John Scalzi's new book is available for pre-order, and it was like 4 a.m. or something. And I think I just added it to Gart, forgot about it. And then one day it showed up in the mail and I was very confused. Truly, I have no recollection of actually purchasing this, but it has to have been because of this sweet man. I think I've also seen a scathing review of the book. I think it was Daniel Green. Tore it apart, hated every second of it. But whatever, it's cool. So that definitely falls under that category. I absolutely bought that only because of the cover. There are 2 others that came to mind when I was thinking this through, one of them being Dracula and the other Frankenstein. These books are obviously classics, huge names spanning culture in general. Outside of books, they have a ton of adaptations and all that. I feel like everybody reads Frankenstein in school. Dracula, I think fewer people have read at this point. I feel like I don't really hear people talking about it. But anyway, I came across these copies in a store, and these are books that obviously I knew about, right? But I never really felt the drive to buy them until I saw these copies. I don't know that this style is for everybody, but I think the colors are just striking. They really pop. And they do this really cool thing where the front of the cover is the front of their face, and on the back of the book is the back of their head. And I just thought that was really cool. And so these fall more under the category of I bought these partially because of the cover. I wanted to read them, and then these covers are what made me actually buy them. And then I did read both of them a year ago. I think, last October I read them both. And they were obviously both fantastic, so I'm very glad that I did. The next prompt is a book that I want to buy that has a beautiful cover. I mean, there's a ton, right? There's a lot of these, but I limited myself to just a couple here. I tried to limit myself for all of these questions to a couple. I think you're technically supposed to probably only answer with one book, but I couldn't do it. The Dance of Shadows has a gorgeous cover, really cool. The colors pop. The guy standing in the middle with like the sun behind his head, all these birds flying out behind him, in front of him. It just really draws your eye right to his face, and then you spread out from there and take in all the details. Gorgeous. Love it. Would love to have that on the shelf. And I've also heard the book is fantastic, so I'm looking forward to eventually picking that up. And then I also felt like I couldn't not mention the Folio Society at least once. So they've got their Alice in Wonderland is really cool, but I really am into their Song of Achilles. I love Song of Achilles, and I feel like the covers have been kind of weak on the more standard editions, but the Folio Society put out this gorgeous copy. It's very unlike the other copies that exist. I don't know that I can ever actually justify purchasing it because it's pretty expensive, and I've already read the book, so probably not, but really pretty. And then similarly, the Folio Society has Jurassic Park. Looks like it's wrapped in like a dinosaur skin. It looks textured, and again, I think it looks really cool. My favorite series design, I don't know if this counts really because it's I'm going with the Cosmere. It's not really a series. There are series within the Cosmere. Whatever, that's mine. I have a controversial take, I think, in that I prefer the UK editions. I just think it looks really cool to have the whole set where they're all just the same kind of color scheme, each with kind of a different highlighted color on it. Like Warbreaker is purple, but then the Stormlight Archives have a red pop. I think that's really cool. So the spines look really nice on the shelf, but I also think that the covers mostly have some really cool art on them. Some of them miss a little bit. A couple of them in the Stormlight Archives, for example, have the publisher had to split the books into part 1 and part 2. So it's kind of one book, but in 2 books. And for the most recent 2 books, the covers really play off of one another, and you can put them next to each other and see like a complete picture, which I think that's really neat. You never see it on my shelf because these are paperbacks. So I'm not like standing them up next to each other, but I know it's there, and I think it's cool. Another series that I really like the design of, this is not the standard editions of these books, and I only own 3 of these, but Discworld, again, it's kind of a series of series, but whatever. These copies that I have from Discworld Emporium are, I think, awesome. They're really cool. They're like cloth bound kind of, and they have they all have these like shiny accents, which are always fun. They catch the light really nice. And I think also that the spines, they're simple spines, but they are still really pretty. They're very striking on the shelf. I own 3 of these. I have read 0 of these, but I feel like I'm really gonna like Discworld, so I got 3 of them that seem like each of them could be a good starting point. And I think if I do like them, it'll be really nice to expand on that collection because, again, I think they look really nice on the shelf all together. The next prompt is a book with a beautiful dust jacket or something unexpected under the jacket. This one was pretty easy because I don't have a lot of books that do anything under the dust jacket, but I do always take the dust jacket off of a hardcover book when I'm reading it. And so anytime I take one off and there's anything under it, that's a surprise to me. And now I have a habit of when I buy a hardcover book, I'll take the dust jacket off like even before I buy it, just because I'm curious, like, oh, is there any little surprise under there? How's it going to look when I'm reading it? Not that it actually matters. I'll buy the book regardless, but it's fun when they have things under there. I think the very first book that I got that did something like this, when I took the dust jacket off, I was like, whoa. I texted it to a couple of my friends, and that's Andrew Watson's Harbinger of Justice and the prequel novella that came out recently, Silence is Silver. Both of these have really cool art on them. Like the art itself is great, and then the covers, they look great, but when you slide the dust jackets off of them, it's the same art just without the words, which is so clever. I don't know why that's not done always. It's probably expensive, but it's really cool. And as silly as it is, I think that is like a reason to buy these physically, if that makes sense. And I don't know, there's something about that I think just is really cool. They also, they feel really nice, these books. The covers themselves, like the dust jackets, they feel nice, but the books also feel really nice. I don't know what that is. It's like a matte material. It's very tactile. It's nice. It's nice. Nice job. I don't know how books are made and how that whole process works, but I assume that it's a request that Andrew Watson himself has to make to whoever is printing the books. And I'm glad he was able to do it twice. I hope he's able to continue doing that as he writes more books in the series. And next up, this isn't a single book. It's not a series. It's just T. Kingfisher. In general, they seem to just do this on all of their hardcover books, at least all the ones that I've purchased. You have these beautiful dust jackets. I think the artwork on all of these dust jackets is awesome, but then you take the dust jackets off and you see another piece of art, and it's a simple piece of art on most of them. I think on a Sorcerer's Comes to Call, it's a little more elaborate, but the rest of the ones that I have, it's a house, a dog, a moth. It's a nice little touch. They're simple but really nice, and most of them have that kind of shiny look to them too, so when the light catches them, they look real nice. The next prompt is asking about a naked hardback. So it says a gorgeous book with no dust jacket. I don't know if this was asking for books that look great without a dust jacket, or if this is just asking for books that look great that simply do not have a dust jacket. I went with the latter of those two options. So I have a handful of books that don't have dust jackets at all, like those Discworld books that I've already talked about, which I won't show again, but really cool. Don't have dust jackets. And then I also have the Secret Projects by Brandon Sanderson. I got the fancy edition for 3 of the Secret Projects, the ones that fall under the umbrella of the Cosmere. So that's Tress of the Emerald Sea, Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, and then The Sunlit Man. None of these have dust jackets, and the art is beautiful. Very well designed, very evocative of the story that is told within the pages. At least I think so. I've only read one so far. But these definitely count in my head as just a piece of art that I have on the shelf. I have a shelf that I currently have dedicated to just these 3 Secret Projects. I feel like you walk into our library and they stick out. They really draw the eye to that shelf. So I'm very pleased to have those as part of the collection. As far as a standalone goes, I have The Tainted Cup, which is an awesome book. Fantasy murder mystery kind of thing. Really interesting. I hadn't read anything like that since, and I've read a couple murder mystery fantasy books since then, and I definitely want to read more now. It's a really cool blend of genres, but regardless, the cover is beautiful. And again, there is no dust jacket. I especially like the high level of detail on the foliage, the vines growing on the spine side of the cover. It's really well done. That's another one that I currently have just kind of sitting on a shelf by itself next to a big plant. And again, I think it really draws the eye up to that shelf. Finally, there's another collection of books that I have that I felt like I had to mention here. Even though I wanted to talk about these again in a prompt coming up, but these are just stunning. That's this collection of children's classics by Minna Lima. I'm highlighting a couple here, Pinocchio, and then I'll show Alice in Wonderland, but I really could have shown all of these, and maybe I'll show them all at some point in a different video. But these just have really cool artwork all over the covers, and they're filled with artwork throughout, and they have these interactive elements inside of them too, which are really neat. So they're really cool books just in general, but they really have just incredibly well designed covers. I think I love how they were able to kind of pack in a bunch of art on the covers, and they again all have these shiny accents all throughout the cover. Each and every one of them has it. These are definitely a little on the pricier side, but you really get so much with these. I really like the next prompt too, a beautiful paperback, taking a step away from all the hardcovers we've been talking about, because I mostly own paperback books, and my most beautiful paperback book, I think, is probably My Best Friend's Exorcism. It's got a unique design to it, unique to books at least. It looks like an old VHS tape. It was very much styled after an old VHS tape, and I think that really comes through. The artwork is awesome, but beyond the artwork is just the level of design here, I think, is really cool. And it's all the way around. It's, the front and the back, even the spine really looks great. And again, going past the artwork of this, which again, I think is really well done, what this cover accomplishes is that it puts you in the time period where the book takes place without having to even open the book and get to that point where you're figuring out the setting. You are given the setting just by virtue of the fact that you're holding what looks like a VHS tape. You pick up this book and you are perfectly primed to be set down in the late 80s. I think the story takes place in 1988. I think the design of the cover is so well done in that regard. Another paperback that I have that really struck me just when I looked at the cover is The Black Tongue Thief. And I don't even have a lot to say about this. It's just really cool. The artist did such a great job with essentially 3 colors. It's just black, white, yellow, but it tells a story on its own. And then as an honorable mention, I don't know why I'm bothering to call him honorable mention, On the Beach by Neville Shute. At least the cover that I have of this book has, again, just a striking cover. It's a really cool design that just kind of catches your eye, with an atom bomb right at the top and then the man's face at the bottom, and he's there smiling and kind of in like a suit. Looking at the book without even reading the synopsis, again, where this story is going to take place. You can maybe tell that this is going to be some sort of nuclear story at the very least, and I just think it's cool. I think of this cover a lot. I think it's an image that kind of sticks in your brain. The next prompt is a nonfiction book with a lovely cover. This was easy for me because I don't actually own all that many nonfictions, and I've only read like one, at least in recent years, and A, I loved it, but B, it's gorgeous, and that is The Wager. I love the way the design kind of wraps around to the spine of this, and you get kind of the complete picture. It really does a good job of setting the tone for the story. You know, this is not going to be a fun seafaring adventure. This is definitely a dark, gloomy, harrowing tale of, like it says, shipwreck, mutiny, and murder. Great book. Highly recommend picking this up, and it makes a great addition to your shelf. A book with great end papers. For this one, I'm going to be reusing a couple answers here. Again, I don't have that many books with end papers at all, but even if I did, I think these would win. T. Kingfisher, again, has great artwork on their dust jackets, and then you take the dust jackets off and the books are gorgeous. You know, I already said all that, but then you open the book and again you're given these awesome covers, and they all, I think, perfectly evoke the tone of the story that you're about to read. They're all just like a little creepy and a little odd and very dark, but they all also have a certain amount of light and whimsy to them too. And I just think they're great. And then the next one again is the Secret Projects. These actually have different end papers at the start of the book and at the end of the book, but I think that they could possibly be taken as spoilers if you look at least the ones on the back. So I'm only showcasing the front end papers of these, but they're just beautiful works of art. Each is very distinct to the story in the books, and they're very detailed and gorgeous, especially the one on the Sunlit Man. I feel like I could frame that one. And the final prompt here is talking about the spine of a book that looks just as good spine out as it does face out. For this, I definitely want to talk about Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. This is the only one of his books that I've read so far, but I definitely want to pick up the rest of the series because A, I like the book, but they also look great on a shelf. The colors really pop. The front cover of the edition that I have is really cool. It's got a great piece of art there, but I think when you put it on a shelf, it really stands out. I think definitely just as good looking spine out. I know there's like an anniversary edition of these as the next book is coming out with like a new style, and it's also really cool, but I think I personally prefer these older editions, especially in terms of the spine. I also wanted to do a callback to those Minalima books, those children's stories with those interactive elements. The spines of these books are gorgeous. They're just as detailed as the covers of the books, and they again have little pieces of art on them. And when you have these all set up on your shelf, it's just awesome. I just think it's a really great look. And then finally, we're back to Starter Villain, which looks exactly as good on the spine as it does on the cover, because he's back. And that's it. That's all the prompts. Again, I realized when I was making this that all the books that I own are beautiful in their own regard, and I'm glad I didn't stop myself from making this just because I don't have a ton of like limited editions and all that. I think it's customary to tag a bunch of people at the end of these videos, so I will be tagging Hopeless Allomantic, Sam Harrison, and the Fairy Librarian. I don't know if any of them are going to do this, but they have been tagged. Thank you for coming back and hanging out. Let me know something in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.